You know, the day that Jesus descended the Mount of Olives was a day that not only fulfilled Bible prophecy, but it was a day that speaks to us of the burden that he was carrying to give his life for the sins of the world. Not to mention, it also speaks to us of how it is that the Almighty has revealed himself to us. Zechariah 9:9 reads, "Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey." When Jesus descended the Mount of Olives on Palm Sunday, Nisan 10, riding that donkey with palm branches being waved, that speaks of joy, and garments being taken off, laid before him, which speaks of surrender, was a day that prophecy was fulfilled. Zechariah 9:9 clearly indicates that in fact the king of Israel would be identified as coming down the Mount of Olives on a donkey. A donkey bears burdens. Jesus was bearing a burden. He was bearing the burden of the sins of the world. 2 Corinthians 5:21 tells us that he became sin for us, that we might be made the righteousness of God. And the scriptures tell us that he set his face towards Jerusalem in full control. He came here for a specific purpose. And the hour for which he was born would be to give his life. And when he was coming into Jerusalem that day, yes, there were cries of Hosanna and save now and esteeming him as the king, but he knew that first he would give his life for all of us. And so on that donkey that day, he is bearing the burden of the world, the burden of all of our sin. But Philippians chapter 2 also gives us a little insight to that day as well, because it identifies that Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant and coming in the likeness of man. And he being found in the appearance as a man, humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross. The word for form there is an interesting word in the Greek. It's the word morphe, the root word for morphology, the study of DNA. It is not telling us that Jesus was less than God, but rather it is identifying Jesus as the DNA of God, that he was the God-man. So as he descended this hill of Olives, he was not only fulfilling Bible prophecy, but he is bearing the burden of your sin and mine. Yet the Bible says, for the joy set before him, he endured that whole week from Nisan 10 to Nisan 14 under intense scrutiny, eventually giving himself for us on the cross, and 3 days later resurrecting from the